is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and quell. Kumintuntum perkun.
A very good evening to you. This is Ghana Tonight, top of the news this hour. Tonight's good news developments for consumers as PURC announces reduced cost of water and electricity. Tonight, everything you need to know. Meanwhile, questions are already coming up about how long that will last as fuel prices are projected to go up. Tonight, commercial drivers hint at an upward adjustment in fares. And this week, recruitment into the security services have sparked nationwide conversations about, but the question it really is, to what end? Tonight, we examine what's next after the noise of the debate fades. Also tonight, our eyes are wide open and on Iran. I am Kemeni Amano, and Ghana Tonight is live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. You may also be watching us on Facebook.com, X.com, 3news.com. and on YouTube. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, remember to use the hashtag Ghana Tonight. Thank you very much for your company here on the program. We'll start off with the summaries.
The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has announced a reduction in electricity and water tariffs effective April 1, 2026. The adjustment, which forms part of the Commission's quarterly tariff review mechanism, reflects key economic and operational factors affecting utility service delivery in Ghana. Acting Executive Secretary Dr. Shafiq Suleiman said the reduction is mainly due to easing inflation and the recent strengthening of the Ghanaian cedi against major trading currencies.
The most important parameter has been the exchange rate and then the inflation. But then they saw a downward trend, but weighted average cost of gas saw an upward trend. And then the hydrothermal mix, we maintained that across board.
The Vice President, Professor Nana Gino Pukwajiman, has been honored by the University of Cape Coast with its prestigious Distinguished Fellow Award. The recognition celebrates her outstanding contribution to education, leadership, and national development. Our Vice President correspondent, Evelyn Tenma, reports from Cape Coast.
She is a trailblazer, and I use that word with precision, not poetry. Throughout her public life, from the lecture halls of this university to the highest offices of national governance, Professor Pukwajiman has maintained an unblemished record. Not a single scandal, not a whisper of controversy in a world where power so often corrodes and where public trust so often frays.
The Ghana Police Service has held high-level discussions with a visiting delegation from the New York City Police Department aimed at strengthening cooperation in modern policing and intelligence sharing. The Inspector General of Police, Christian Teta Yohonu, received the delegation at the police headquarters in Accra, together with members of the Police Management Board. A key aspect of the discussion centered on plans to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Ghana Police Service and the New York City Police Department.
Crime level as at this time is very low because of the serious work, the impact we give to our men on the field. And I can assure you that Ghana is quite peaceful. It's one of the peaceful countries.
In spite of the arrest of 11 suspects in connection with a deadly clash between two sister communities of Asemko and Butrem, the Ahanta West municipality of the Western region, the Asemko community remains deserted 6 months after the violence. Meanwhile, the chief of the Butre and Asemko divisional area, Nana Ijabuchia X, is calling on the government to establish a security post in the area to prevent future conflicts.
Ukraine Yahano security some year week. I sense the same near El Koso Hano, and San Obin Janin Free Hanum and drew the district.
It is very difficult for anyone here to go all the way to the district capital to report a crime. By the time help arrives, the harm would already have been done. If you have learned anything from this tragedy, it is that we need our own security post here. It will help all of us and reduce these clashes. So I'm pleading, please establish a security post for us.
Former Thomas Party's legal case has been adjourned to April 10, 2026 at a preliminary hearing at Westminster Magistrates Court on Friday. The former Arsenal FC midfielder did not appear in court after being excused from attendance. The 32-year-old was charged last month with 2 counts of rape relating to an alleged incident involving a woman in December 2020. His lawyer, Emma Fenn, told the court that Party intends to plead not guilty to both charges.
Gonna brief there for you right now. Let's talk about utility tariffs because we understand they will go down, but by how much? Utility tariff will be lower the next time you buy electricity or water units. The regulator announced new lower prices to take effect from next month. Electricity tariff will decrease by an average of 4.81%, while water tariffs will reduce by 3.06%. Question: is this worth anything? Answer: it depends. It depends on your consumption level and category. This single-digit reduction, the first since the Mahama administration took office, is attributed to easing inflationary pressures and a strong local currency. But if we're honest, a little bit of media pressure. Here's the executive secretary of PURC.
We explained to you previously that we have what we call the multi-year tariff order. That is done every 3 years. Or for the first time, we are doing it for the first time for it to take 5 years, because we are still thinking about the consumer. We are a consumer-centric commission. So it has always been done for every 3 years, but for the first time, we are doing it for a longer period of time so that the consumer can get the full benefits of the utilities before there's any major review. So that's the first. So what we did to take effect in January was for 5 years. But within that 5 years, you need to do what we call quarterly tariff adjustment. So the quarterly tariff adjustments are done every quarter. So we are just beginning the second quarter. So we needed to do it for it to take effect for the next three months. So quarterly is different from multi-year tariff order. So first of all, what we do is to, after doing the MITO, which takes into consideration the investment requirement of the utilities, we then use very important indicators like inflation, exchange rates, hydrothermal mix, and what we call weighted average cost of gas. That's WACOG. So these are the 4 parameters that we use to do the quarterly calibrations. So within this four last three months, January till date, there've been some improvement in the exchange rates consistently. There've also been some improvement in inflation consistently, and then the hydrothermal mix has also been maintained, even though we are increasingly getting a higher demand for thermal power, because the hydro is constant. So thermal power demand is increasing much more. So it means that there's more higher power, there's more expensive power being made available to the consumer. But we still maintain it because we wanted to keep a very, very good downward trend for consumer. So we didn't really consider that much. And then the final one is what we call WACOG.
So what is 4.81% worth to you? I don't think in percentages. So I asked the research desk to do the work. And think of it this way. If you consume 1,000 cedis for a specific number of days or weeks, depending on what you use, now you will get about 48 cedis more, right, than you're consuming. So if we keep everything constant, you're either going to pay 952 cedis for what used to be 1,000 cedis, or you just gain in value 48 cedis more for the same 1,000 cedi you used to spend, or you spend now. And that's all starting from the 1st of April. Now that is out of the way, we know the regulator is also introducing new tariffs for electric vehicle charging businesses. Yes, Dr. Sulemana, again.
The EV charge is for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and then Honorable Dr. Abdullah John Jinapo. They started the initiative of green transition. You know, from the beginning of the year, they changed the Ministry of Energy to Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. That requires that it's a government policy direction. So that requires that we take into consideration all those factors. And we already know that there are a lot of vehicles around that are EV, becoming EVs, and the importation of those EVs are escalating and increasing. So as a regulator, we wanted to take the lead and set the parameters right. We the beginning of the year also engaged an association of e-vehicle charging point operators. And they've also made it known to us that they needed a reference price. And they are expecting that to come from the PURC.
Let's stay on this matter because Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Insia, is joining me now for a quick chat on the back of this. I appreciate your time here tonight, Benjamin. But, you know, what we're hearing is that this reduction should have even been lower. Why do you say so?
I think I've listened to my senior and old school boy, Dr. Suleiman. I think that his administration is doing well, but they need to improve, especially when it comes to consistent methodology and also consistent adaptation of data sources. The reason why we expected quite very lower tariff reduction or higher tariff reduction, depending on how you look at it, is because of the methodology, historical methodology, and also the source of data. So if you look at last year, we had about 4 tariff adjustments, but you only have cumulatively 3 because the first and second quarter was consolidated together to begin on 3rd May 2025. we had the third quarter somewhere in July, and also had the fourth quarter somewhere in October. And these data were projected based on projected inflation as well as projected exchange rate. However, what we have observed in the recent tariff announcement for the second quarter of 2026, based on, they use historical data. What that means is that when you use historical data, the consumer had already moved beyond those months. For example, if you look at just this announcement, they use data from December, January, and February. When you use these are historical data, the consumer has already moved out of it. So it means that the consumer is going back to pay for some higher inflations in December, or the consumer is moving back to pay for some higher exchange rate in December or January. If they had used projected, it means that the inflation which they use 4.17 would have been lower than the inflation they use, would have been around 3.2 or maybe 3%, and that means that the 4% decline would have gone far higher than the 4% or 4.8% they projected.
I see.
If also they had used...
And so, Benjamin, just quickly for me, if this is what you say, then tell us what should have been the true level or percentage of reduction?
So based on our calculation, we're expecting at least 11% reduction, and these are the reasons we make this claim. PURC normally uses what we call under recovery when actual exceeds projection. So they use under recovery. Same way we have what we call over recovery when actual is less than projected. There's over recovery, and we've observed that in the fourth quarter there's over projection. So when there's an over projection in the fourth quarter, it should be a pass-through benefit in subsequent quarters. The PURC did not do that. Two, as I indicated earlier, when you project inflation, which if they had done based on their practice, if they had projected inflation, what the inflation they would have used would be less than the 4.17% they used. And so because such projections indicate that inflation will be on the declining side. And all these will pass through for us to get at least 11%. Now, last, let me add, when you heard him, he mentioned that there's what we call multi-year tariff review order, which is for 4 years or 3 to 5 years, depending on which government is in power. And there's also quarterly adjustment. However, he forgot that the second quarter is not first quarter. So we're expecting that if they were going to review tariff downwards, they should have started from the first quarter to take care of the quarterly adjustment for the first quarter of 2026. They didn't do so. They just went to second quarter of 2026. And I think that is unfair to get the Ghanaian electricity end user.
Benjamin, is this a sign that perhaps we should take a second look at the module we use in calculating the quarterly increments or adjustments?
I think the methodology and model is good. We know the various factors, the energy mix, he mentioned them. We know the exchange rate, he mentioned it. We know the inflation, he mentioned it. We know the cost of fuel, which is mostly weighted average cost of gas made up of transmission of fuel, the price of the product itself, aggregation, and others. We know those, but I think how he sourced the data is the reason why we are observing a lesser percentage decline than what we ought to have seen, which is 11%. He used historical data, or they use historical data, and we are beyond history. We should
so they got it wrong from your point of view?
I think based on data, they got it wrong. I think based on data, they got it wrong. If they had used projected, as they've done always, the prices would have been, the decrease would have been higher than the 4.8% they just announced.
Benjamin, we'll leave it here for now. Thank you very much for your time. Benjamin Insia there, he's an energy researcher. We've just been looking at the announced low or reduced prices for utility, water and electricity to take effect 1st of March. But that is not the only utility, so to speak, that we will talk about tonight. Fuel prices could see an increment, converse of what we have just spoken about, thanks to current global climate. Let's get into that now. Now, here's the thing. Drivers in Ghana are threatening to review upwards the cost of commute after new figures project there could be an increase in fuel prices. Oil marketing companies say a sharp rise in fuel price in the second pricing window of March is expected. This month, that is. Petrol is expected to rise by 16.93% to about 14.02 cedis per litre. Diesel by 17.21%. That will be about to 15.8 cedis per litre. And LPG by 11.2%, bringing it to about 15.9 per kilogram. Now, the threat of returning to the fuel price as seen in the pre-Mahama administration era has the drivers preparing to shift the increment onto us, the consuming public. Yes, Abbas Imoro, who speaks for the GPRTU.
We keep complaining about the vehicles we are using. The parts have never been reduced. Those who sell it has confirmed it. We keep saying lubricants prices haven't changed. Everybody is aware. Documentation has gone down. When we say documentation, we talk about insurance premium, DVLA, taxes, what have you. Of recent time, insurance premium has been increased. So if it goes up by that margin, we would have no choice than to come up reasonably.
Truth, it is not only drivers who are worried about the thought of a jump in fuel price. Business owners, industry, you, me, we are worried too. Now let's hear from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry on this matter.
It's really not a good news. When prices of fuel goes up, it affects everything. It's the major cause of inflation. Or basically what we can do is to ensure that our strategic reserves are enough to contain some of these shocks. So unless we don't have that much strategic reserves, we will find ourselves in a position that will not be too good for the nation. It's something that we called for. At the last time that there was the increment, we had planned to go on a demonstration against the PRC. For it going down, we think that that's good. It should have gone down even much more. We are looking at about 6 to 7% reduction in utilities. But be that as it may, I think we will make do with that, expecting that it will go down further in the coming months.
Let's have a quick chat on the back of this, because we've got utility going down, a projection of fuel price increase, obviously, thanks to global events or the global climate at the moment. For us as consumers, how should we put the two together? Duncan Amwa is Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, and Dr. Rivison Opon is Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. Let's bring both gentlemen now into the conversation. I appreciate your time, gentlemen, this evening. I'll start off with you, Dr. Opon. Let's first establish this. What exactly is influencing this projected increase of almost 16% for petrol alone and 17% for diesel?
And thanks for having me here as well, Smucho. I think for the past 2 weeks, we've been engaging with you, we've been engaging other media houses, explaining and predicting what's ahead of us in terms of affordability of fuel. It started with understanding supply security in the midst of energy security. So energy security will cut across energy or fuel availability, accessibility, which we're having an issue with today, and hence affecting affordability. And I always want to say that for now, or even forever, in Ghana here, let's not politicize fuel prices. As we can see, regime over regime, no government of Ghana has control over fuel prices, especially when it has to do with benchmarking it with international prices. Today, you and I understand the impact of the Iran-Israel war affecting the Strait of Hormuz in terms of accessibility, and affordability. The oil and gas is available in that region, but today it's not accessible, therefore affecting prices. In Australia today, in India today, in Pakistan today, these areas that are depending solely on this region are suffering supply issues and pricing issues. We are in the western corridors of the energy market, therefore supply security is not an issue. However, let's state it emphatically that as far as pricing is concerned, Ghana will not swerve this. We are going to bear it. Dangote is in Nigeria, but fuel prices in Nigeria have increased for over 45% today in Nigeria. So since we are operating on an average of 2 weeks window, which is on a test today as we speak, because we saw fuel prices being increased this week, spot purchases happened because the BDCs were de-risking their trading, which I totally understand. So we see fuel prices going up, and I think this is not supposed to be a news to anybody in the country because we saw it coming.
Yeah, I want to bring in Duncan at this point. Duncan, for you at COPEC, do you see the same projections?
Kemi, the only thing we would differ on has to do with what the NPA says, what COMAC says. What the consumer would have wished for, like we always say, would have been a reduction. But, well, we are also mindful of the global or geopolitical happenings. We are quite aware that times are difficult and it cannot come down at this point. It might necessarily go up. The question for us is how much, really? You speak to the BDCs, you get a sense that, well, we haven't done too much. We have done up to about 13, 14, maximum 15. You get to the OMC point, you are getting about 16, 17 in some places. I don't know how Monday will pan out, but there's a bit of anxiety at this point, what exactly to expect.
Right.
Our projections were pointing between 14 and 16. But from the bits you hear, even within some of the petroleum service providers, you get the understanding that it could be even above 16 on Monday. So we can only wait and see, Bakemi. These are not times I would want to pontificate, except to say that we could have planned as a country and planned better.
I see. And we know that in the course of the week, we've heard from technical advisor to the finance minister, Dr. T.A. Champong, who said that, look, things are in place as far as this economy is concerned. Even if, crude prices were to rise because of the global climate at the moment to up to $180, this country will be able to withstand the shocks. Do you have hope that perhaps this March projection may not happen as soon as we're seeing it?
Kemi, I think that it is one thing facing the reality for what it is, and another being hopeful. If you told me that you have about 6 months or 3 months or 4 months of import cover, and that the state can, as it were, stimulate the market with that import cover, as far as the strategic reserves is concerned, then I can not only be optimistic, but also be optimistic based on numbers. If fuel prices are around where we are, crude around 90-100, is going to push us to above the 14, 15, 16 region. Let nobody believe that at 180 we should be very comfortable. We may not. The only good thing, like I have said yesterday, is that the finance managers, the managers of the economy, seem to have gotten their acts spot on with the currency. If not because your cedi is a bit okay or good at this point, and you had to combine the geopolitical shock with what the cedi, if it was in the past that the cedi was depreciating so rapidly, if you had added the two at the same time, Kemi, I'm sure Ghanaians, particularly the GPRTU and a section of Ghanaians who depend on fuel morning, afternoon, evening in order to be able to get by, would have probably poured onto the streets. But now the economy seems to be doing well. The cedi or the forex is okay. And so we'll be dealing with the geopolitical shock, but we do not have that absorber at this point to say that even if it went to 180, we'll be comfortable.
Very well, Duncan, I'm going to come back to you on that point, but at this time, let's turn to Dr. Opong. Doc, is it the case that nothing really could be done, at least have a reduced percentage than 16 and 17 as you have projected?
If you tell me if anything could not be done, I probably want to specify it. Because today we know that fuel prices are computed with the understanding that we have three variables. The first variable is the SREF. SREF today depends solely on the landing price and the cost of margins added to the BDC prices, which is SREF. Then we have the S-pump. The S-pumps will now have two variables: the margin from the OMC and dealer, and taxes and levies. So the first two depends. The first one depends on international benchmark price and how the cedi is behaving against the dollar. We all know what it takes to get where we've got today. Then the second one, which is the OMC's, I would say, part of the price when it comes to their commission and all about. Today forms about 3 to 4% of the pump price. Competition is swallowing everything that the OMCs and LPGMCs are due in terms of margin.
Well, Duncan, I'll bring you in again. Could this be the time when TOR perhaps could show us this magic wand of reserves that is talked about over the last few weeks?
Kemi, truly, at the risk of being given names, I think that we could have done better, way better. We glorify and take credit for the minimums. The Tema oil refinery would need investments. In fact, there was a debate yesterday as to whether really they are adding to the market. The flare is not on as one would have expected. And so as to how much TOR is adding to our net national demand or consumption daily, if you ask me, Kemi, at this point, I may not have the answer. I know
so bottom line, TOR cannot be helpful to us while we undergo this global shock.
At this point, when we haven't been able to invest, I keep saying this, TOR can come back to the bank and say that, oh, they are working, everything is fine. But from where I sit, there is no measure of how much TOR is adding to the current market. If you ask Dr. Opong and the BDCs who is lifting from TOR, you may not get the answers forthcoming. And so we should deal with the very difficult issues and invest in the Tema oil refinery if the need be. Invest in the petroleum hub if the need be, so that we can have a multiple refinery stream. We can have a lot of tanks, aside what BOST also presents.
Right.
Then you can have a net national strategy that says that I am going to be able to save up to 7 months strategic stock. That belongs to the state and not private capital. If that were to be the case, Kemi, I'm sure the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, the Ministry of Finance, the government itself, could have safely told Ghanaians at this point, look, I don't need the BDCs to even bring in fuel. I have enough stock. I'm going to be able to release the stock, at the prices
Alternatively, Duncan.
When prices were lower. Yes.
Alternatively, Duncan.
You are not.
Could the government decide to take off some of the price build-up that make up the pump price?
Tell me, as of this afternoon, I knew that the minister was working very hard to try to mitigate some of the shocks that we may be seeing on Monday. And for that, I think that there's some work or effort being put in there. They may want to consider some of the taxes, going. Again, what they could also do is to also still talk to the managers of the economy to ensure that the cedi is strengthened further around this time. If that were to happen, it will mitigate any further, increments. But if the cedi doesn't stabilize or gain, and then you have Iran, Israel, and all of them, the taxes alone, even if you were to take all the 4 cedi, 30, and now you are going to get about 2, 3, 4 cedis increment on Monday, you can take all the government taxes. There will still be something for the Ghanaian to worry about. I think that we should have a net national strategy that involves good refineries, that involves, placing BOST back where we wanted it to be since 1993. That way, government can say, I have enough reserves, so Dr. Opong and the BDCs can come to me. I will not increase my prices, but as it stands, it is all private capital, and private capital, cannot sit to make losses when global prices are very high. They would certainly have to go for realistic prices. The only intervention you should have needed at this point should have come from TOR and BOST. You don't have enough at this point from them.
Very well, Duncan. Dr. Opong, I'll give you the last word on this one. Will removing the levies and taxes or the build-up, some of the elements of the build-up work?
I think that should be a government decision. For us as an industry, we will praise him for that, no doubt. We'll be happy to hear that there is some level of tax holidays in the midst of fuel price hike globally.
Dr. Riverson Opong and Duncan Amwa of COPEC. Gentlemen, thank you so much once again for your time and insights on the subject matter. I hope it brought clarity to the latest development in this country to do with fuel prices, a projection that it could go up as early as this month. There's no fixed date yet because we will hear from the government along the line. Thanks to global geopolitical shocks that are happening at the moment. We've also told you that at the same time, we are seeing a reduction in utility tariffs. It's unclear whether or not this is all some kind of a symbiotic development taking place to cushion the consumers or the consuming public one way or the other. We'll know that perhaps in later broadcasts. Right now, however, if you don't know it yet, it is the 14th day since a new war in the Middle East. We have been talking about the geopolitical shocks across the world. Tonight, we are keeping our eye on Iran. Tonight, events are rapidly changing, raising more questions about the war on Iran that began some 14 days ago. Here are a few important facts we've gathered. Now, today, 2,500 U.S. Marines and at least one extra warship have been deployed to the Middle East. It is unclear if there will be U.S. boots on Iran's soil soon. But what is clear is that it is a significant development. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth claims without evidence that Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is wounded and likely disfigured. Mojtaba's lack of appearance in public since becoming the supreme leader has not helped either. Meanwhile, thousands poured onto the streets of Tehran to mark Jerusalem's Day during Israeli airstrikes, which were caught on live TV. Now, did I tell you what Jerusalem Day is? Quds Day, they call it, International Jerusalem Day. It takes its inspiration from Iran's 1979 revolution. It is an annual pro-Palestinian event held on the last Friday of Ramadan in solidarity with Palestinians and in opposition to Israeli control of Jerusalem. We're also learning tonight that 6 U.S. soldiers have been killed after a refueling jet crashed in western Iraq. The U.S. says it was not as a result of the war. Let's go back and take a listen to Pete Hegseth today.
As we often do here at the Department of War, with the bottom line up front, for the world to hear and the press to actually admit that the United States is decimating the radical Iranian regime's military in a way the world has never seen before. Never before has a modern, capable military, which Iran used to have, been so quickly destroyed and made combat ineffective, devastated. We said it would not be a fair fight, and it has not been. As I stated during our first press conference on day 2, that was 10 short days ago, the combination of the world's 2 most powerful air forces is unprecedented and unbeatable. Between our air force and that of the Israelis, over 15,000 enemy targets have been struck. That's well over 1,000 a day. No other combination of countries in the world can do that. So today, as we speak, we fly over the top of Iran and Tehran. Fighters and bombers all day picking targets as they choose. As our intelligence gets better and better and more refined. Looking up, the IRGC and Iranian regime sees only 2 things on the side of aircraft: the Stars and Stripes and the Star of David. The evil regime's worst nightmare. Iran has no air defenses. Iran has no air force. Iran has no navy. Their missiles, their missile launchers and drones being destroyed or shot out of the sky. Their missile volume is down 90%. Their one-way attack drones yesterday, down 95%. And as the world is seeing, they are exercising sheer desperation in the Straits of Hormuz.
Well, Pete Hegseth there, obviously assuring the American people and American allies that America is on top of the war at this time. Whether or not he doing his job well is in the interest of humanity, that's not the focus of our conversation tonight. But I would like to show you this. The true cause of the war, the needless deaths. Take a look. Remember that on February 28th, when U.S.-Israel strikes entered Iran, they responded also by targeting U.S. assets and Israel as well. We know that Iran by itself has hit some of its neighbors as a result of that. As we heard from Hegseth, thousands of targets have also been hit as far as Iran is concerned. And these are the numbers as of Friday, March 13th, thanks to Al Jazeera. In Iran alone, 1,444 people have been killed. It's followed by Lebanon, because remember that Israel has also taken offensive on Hezbollah in Lebanon. 687,000 people, 687, have been killed, and over 1,700 injured. Look at the number of injured people in Iran, 18,551. In Israel, 2,000 people have been injured and 15 killed. The U.S. military itself has seen 11 people killed, including the 6 we're told are not as a result of the war. 140 to 150 have been injured as a result of that. But look at the neighbors in the Middle East region: Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Oman. Today we are learning that the UAE is opening up its airspace again. Whether or not that is safe, let's find out. I'll bring in now Professor Lord Mauto to the conversation. And Prof, I appreciate your time this evening. But let's start off, Prof. Yevuga. Let's start off with some of the things that we've heard so far. The U.S. sending Marines and an extra warship to the Middle East. Is this an indication that we will be seeing U.S. boots on Iran soil soon?
Well, thank you, Kimini. It's a pleasure always being with you on the show. I think that's an indication that all is not well and that things have not gone according to plan. We were told at the beginning that this was going to wrap up so quickly. So if today the United States is trying to send more ships and personnel, then it means that things have not gone according to plan and they have to have a plan B. And that is what we are going to be seeing. It's possible you cannot do regime change through airstrikes. So if you really want to do regime change, you may have to put boots on the ground. Whether or not that will even work and whether the American public will be tolerant of that is another issue altogether.
Is this a wise decision on the part of the U.S., given the context of the war we have seen so far?
Well, I don't think. I think there are people in Washington who are scratching their heads and wondering what has just happened to their beautiful country. Because, I mean, we are told that they spend about $1 billion a day on this war. In a country where Donald Trump promised to actually reduce the federal kind of debt and all that, spending money in a needless war, as some have described it, is just unbelievable. And I think that the longer it takes, the more unpopular, bearing in mind that the midterm elections are just a few months away. So I think one of the things that Donald Trump may want to do is to wrap up, and by taking more personnel to the region to show that they are winning and that they have actually succeeded. No, I mean, that may be his definition of what is success in that case. But for me, the political establishment in America may not be happy because it's not a war. This is a war of choice. There was no imminent threat. Now, American intelligence has revealed that there was no imminent threat. Iran was not planning any attacks on America. Right. So this is something that, unforced error, if you ask me. And given the campaign that Donald Trump ran in 2024 against endless wars, that he will be the one coming to stop such endless wars, only for him to drag America to this one, it bothers a lot of people, including the Republicans.
I see. And I do want us to look at some of the casualties that we have seen. Obviously, these are war times in that area. We continue to see casualties, including children, particularly in Lebanon. The numbers have been very disturbing coming out of there. How close are we to pandemonium? Because there's airstrike here, airstrike there. How close are we to the world, everybody going crazy in the Middle East, and a full-blown pandemonium there?
Yes, so this, I don't think United States and Israel actually predicted how widespread this war will become, that will draw in other countries from the region into the war. And if care is not taken, it becomes full-blown regional war. And the Third World War that Donald Trump used to caution us about, Kamala Harris. And Kimini, in all this, what baffles me is that it's almost as if we live in a lawless international system. I mean, just imagine 2003, look at the global outcry against George Bush going to Iraq. But today, the United Nations voice is being drowned out. And in 2003, Kofi Annan stood strong to demand answers and to call it as an illegal intervention in Iraq. Today, the Secretary General has spoken, but nothing has happened. And with impunity, America is like going to war without regard to the rules-based international system. And that's, for me, that's so surprising. Nobody talks about the UN international law. We just say it's okay. They can go bombing other countries. Regardless of the reasons, we seem to be giving them a blank check to go ahead and do whatever they are doing, killing innocent people. And the death toll is going to rise if the bombings
Well,
continues.
Prof, I want to put a few developments together. I'm running out of time. I want us to look at the UAE opening its airspace back, whether or not that is a very careless thing to do at this time. We also look at the absence of Mojtaba Khamenei in public. We haven't seen him. The U.S. is indicating, again, without providing evidence, that he is injured and disfigured. Why do you think he's not out in the open? What are your thoughts on these?
Well, first of all, I mean, he not being open, that could be a strategy by the Iran. Remember that Israel has vowed that anybody who is chosen will be eliminated. So to be foolhardy on your part to show yourself when you can be easily killed. So United States doesn't have any confirmation. They are just speculating. And that's warfare. In warfare, propaganda works. You want to diminish your opponent by spreading untruth. That's what America is. They want to win the propaganda war. That is a weak regime and the leader is wounded. There's no evidence to support that. It could be Iran's strategy of not exposing the new leader. It could be that he's hurt. We don't know for sure. But there will be, why would they vote for somebody who is not well, who is injured to take over when there are a lot of other people that could have been easily chosen? So I'm not buying the propaganda. Let the truth come out eventually. It could be that this strategy Iran, they are just being cautious.
I guess we're going to have to hope so. But the UAE opening up its airspace, we've also seen the president of Iran engage, the Egyptian president as well. Obviously, a good sign that they're getting back in the good books of their neighbors in the Middle East. Touch on these two issues for me quickly.
Well, it is important for Iran to work with its neighbors. You live in a neighborhood, and no matter what happens, Americans will not be there forever. You will have your neighbors with you forever. So it's a good thing that they are trying to reach out to their neighbors. As for UAE opening their airspace, that could be dangerous. Because remember, Iran wants to hit the West where it hurts. They are targeting their bases in those countries. So if you are UAE, you are Qatar and those countries that Iran is attacking, why would you go ahead and open your airspace? What are you trying to prove? So it's very risky, and everybody will have to be very careful.
Should the U.S. worry about Iran reestablishing cordial relations with its neighbors again?
Of course, the U.S. will be worried because, you see, the whole plan was that they want to demonize Iran and create the impression that this regime is illegitimate and that is very unpopular. There will be popular uprising. The regional neighbors are going to rise up, and all those are not happening. So they'll be worried that the regime is gaining legitimacy once again.
Very well. Prof, always a pleasure talking to you. Professor Lord Mauto Yevuga is an international relations expert. And I'll take a break now. When we come back, let's talk about the recruitment controversy that's hit this country this week. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
Why are more and more professionals choosing Flamingo paint?
As an interior decorator, I aim for that beautiful, elegant look. Flamingo paint has great hiding ability to cover and transform old walls easily with just one coat.
Impressive. For me, as a professional painter, I love Flamingo paint because it is small paint.
Welcome back from the break. It's still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 392.7. I am Kemeni Amano. Tonight, experts say there could be fallouts from the security services recruitment fee controversy that has made headlines the whole week. More than 500,000 people have been trying out for a few thousand slots in the security services, sparking national debate on transparency, equity, and outdated recruitment ecosystem. Tonight, Africa Institute of Governance and Security says this is a politically sensitive issue, given persistent youth unemployment and long-standing allegations that recruitment into the security services is influenced by patronage networks. End of quote. Let's have a quick chat with Senior Research Fellow at the Institute, Dr. Palgrave Boakye Dankwa. Doc, good evening. I appreciate your time. But when you say that there will be fallouts from the security services recruitment fee controversy, what are you referring to?
A very good evening to you, Kimani, and thank you for the opportunity. And to state that for the African Institute of Governance and Security, we focus very clearly on strategic governance and security analysis. And having observed very closely the recruitment process through the security architecture of the Ghana Armed Forces, of the immigration, of the Ghana Police Service, we are minded to state that if you look at the number of people that went through the processes, close to 500,000 of those, and the data tells us that they are going to take about 5,000 of that, you clearly would see the risk of the sensitivity that it poses through our security architecture. I have proposed, and the Institute has proposed, that before people will join the security architecture, we should start picking them from age 15. But here we are, people have already socialized with society, they have already formed their value system, and they are coming into a very sensitive environment that borders on the internal security of the country and borders on the sovereignty of the country. And so if you have a large number of them not being given the opportunity, bearing in mind the large number of unemployment, I mean, clearly, and you look at the logistical issues that comes along with that, and the fact that it's almost often politically motivated, it's something that we need to look at as a country.
Dr. Boakye Dankwa, you make some great submissions there, but I'm afraid we are out of time. We'll end our conversation here. Let's catch up again on another edition of your nightcap, your security bulletins that you send out. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Dr. Palgrave Boakye Dankwa is Senior Research Fellow at the Africa Institute of Governance and Security. We did it. 60 minutes of great conversations here, insightful stories, and let's continue on key points tomorrow with Alfred Okansi and his panelists as they look at the week's biggest stories, obviously including the recruitment. I will also sit down with the Interior Minister, Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak, as we discuss the safety of the public in this country. We'll look at the recruitment issues as well, and a few other things that you want to tune into on Sunday at 1 p.m. And then I'll see you on Monday with another edition of News Central. But let's meet here again next Friday for another edition of Ghana Tonight. I'm Kemeni Amano. Have yourself a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumentuntum Prekun. Did you know in 2024, Ghana's iconic kente cloth was inscribed onto UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity?